Hey guys, I'm Steph. Thanks for checking out my channel. At the moment, I still have 2 finals left, but by the time this video goes up, I will be done. So I am so excited for that Christmas break, and I have so many video ideas planned and everything, and I really just want to start filming a lot more and putting up a lot more content. I have so many ideas for this channel, so please subscribe so that you are updated with all the new content that I'm going to be posting. So for today, I'm going to be doing another first impression foundation. If you haven't seen it, this is a series where I test out a foundation for the first time, wear it throughout the day, and then give you my thoughts at the end of the day. So today, I'm going to be testing out the L'Oréal 24-Hour Infallible Pro-Matte. I'm really excited to try this foundation. I am an oily person, so I don't really think I have many matte foundations. I have a lot of natural finish, satin finish, but I haven't really tried anything that markets itself as matte. So I'm really excited to see if this makes a difference with my oil on my face. So I am testing out the shade 101 Classic Ivory. So thankfully at the drugstore I went to, there were testers. So I compared the 101 Classic Ivory to, it must be the 102, the next one up in shade, and this did seem like a better fit. At first I was unsure if it might be a little on the light side, and I do think that if this was summer that might be the case, because I did test it out in the summer in store and it did look like 102 is better, but I figured personally for me, I would rather go a little bit lighter so I can just bronze it up versus going a little bit darker, especially in the winter and being fair, and like I'm not really someone who holds a tan anyways. I feel like it would be very obvious, so that's why I decided to go for the 101. So before I zoom in for the application, just so you know, in this series I don't use a primer because sometimes I forget to use a primer, and I don't want that also to be interfering with how the foundation wears and my thoughts on it. So I did moisturize as part of my normal skincare routine. So now I will zoom in for the application. I'll be doing this side with the makeup sponge and this side with the makeup brush. So before I get into the application, I totally did not read the claims on this. So it just says lasting demi-matte finish. And then on the back of L'Oreal packages, it kind of says like the finish, the wear time, and that type of thing. So it claims to be a demi-matte finish, wear up to 24 hours, medium coverage, air light texture, oil control. So we will see if that is the case. It's just, oh, I turned it upside down to read the claims with the lid off, and it started to like leak out. So it does seem like it's a little bit liquid in this state. So I feel like it's supposed to, I'm just going to shake it up a little bit because I haven't used it yet, so it has just been sitting there. Okay. And now it's all come up the top. Okay. Here we go. Okay. It's lighter than I remember in the store, but I feel like once I blend it out, it is going to be the right color. It feels not too heavy on the face, so I'm gonna blend it out with the sponge. Okay, so I feel like it does blend into my neck well, but face on, I don't know if you can really tell on the camera, but I feel like this side looks much lighter than this side. I wish like there was like a 101.5, which is how I feel in most cases about foundation. Like I'm not quite this, I'm not quite that, I need something in the middle, and I feel like a lot of people must feel that way. But in terms of coverage, that was just like one sheer layer. I don't really notice any mattifyingness right away, and in terms of coverage, I would say it's very light. I can still see so much coming through, so I'm going to try to build it up in those areas with the sponge just to see if it is buildable. Oh my gosh, it is like a fountain of foundation coming out of this bottle. Okay, so really putting it on thick in the areas where I have more pigmentation due to acne scars or current acne. So let's see how that blends out and if the coverage. Whoa. Now that is coverage. Okay, so really focusing it on those issues, I feel like you can see that covered up so much more. I'm impressed. I still wouldn't say this is total coverage. I do still see some kind of like purpleyishness coming through, but it is definitely a huge improvement. Like strong, medium coverage, maybe even like a strong, medium to light full is what I'm going to classify this at the moment. So I'm going to go over it this side with the brush and see how I like that. Okay, and to go in on this side with the brush, just going to tap it on first with my finger and then blend it out using this paddle brush from Primark, which I always use the sponge was from Eco Tools. Okay, so this is one layer with a makeup sponge. Again, you can still see everything coming through, and I do feel like it does make me look a little more pale than I do, but then when you look at my neck, it does kind of match. So maybe, I think that's the thing though, that your face is darker than your neck, so now it all matches up. Anyways, just looking in my mirror here. Okay, I'm gonna go in with a second layer over this fun stuff here and see if we can build up that coverage again. And I'm just slightly blending around that because I want to just wipe it both ways. Okay, so then that is this area with 2 layers, and I feel like it did not cover as strongly as it did on the sponge side. So in terms of that, I think I do prefer the sponge because I just feel like it built up that second layer and that coverage here so much better than it did on this side. So usually at this stage in my foundation wearing, like my forehead usually does look a little bit oily, and so does my chin, and that doesn't seem to be the case. There's really not much shine. I would say like that little bit you might be able to see is more so from the lights than from actual oil. So I'm excited the mattifyingness seems to be working. That being said, we're like 2 minutes in, and one thing I am worried about is it oxidizing and becoming very pink, because I feel like it's not showing up on camera, but in person it just seems like it's very pink. It's very cool undertone, and I'm really worried about that. So I'm going to put on the rest of my makeup and let you know how concealer and powder and that type of thing works with this. So I'll see you in a little bit. So as you can see, I now have makeup on. I didn't use a setting powder with this because just with these first impression foundations, I want to see how like the foundation works on its own. So I don't use a setting powder and I don't use a setting spray, just because I want to see like what is the longevity of this on its own, and I just want to see if this can stand by itself throughout the day. So I decided to use a cream blush today because I wanted to see how that worked with the foundation, and I thought it blended out really nicely. It didn't stick to anything, so that was good. With the bronzer, on the other hand, I found like, I don't know if you can see my forehead, like it looks like super orange and was like very difficult to blend out. And this is like my butter bronzer from Physicians Formula. I use it all the time. Like if I'm wearing makeup, 4 to 5 times I'm using that bronzer. So I don't usually have any issues with it. So I thought that was a bit weird, and it looks like quite orangey compared to usual. So that was a little bit of a weird thing. And then, oh, I put on a cream highlight, but I meant to put powder on top. I didn't. Anyways, that went on fine. The concealer went on fine. I did use the powder to set under my eye just because that's more so for the concealer than for the foundation itself. But I thought everything else went on with it okay. And now that I've been wearing it for a bit of time and it's had some time to warm up to my skin, I don't feel like it really oxidized, which is great because that's what I was worried about. And I feel like if at this point it hasn't oxidized, it's probably not going to throughout the day. I find oxidization usually happens within the first 20 to 30 minutes of wearing a foundation. That being said, I'm going to zoom in because I do have an issue with this foundation. So right here I have a pimple, and I put the foundation, this is where I did double layer. As you can see, like it is covering the rest of it, but this one right here, it looks so cakey. And then on this side too, I feel like where I went in with here, it also looks cakey. So it seems like the areas that I went in with the 2 layers where there was texture, that's where I'm having the issue, where it was just pigmentation from like acne that's more like flatter on the skin wasn't an issue, but like This one I had a pimple that it was a whitehead and it kind of burst yesterday, and this is on top of it now, and I have one that's like a bit raised over here, and the double layer made it look so cakey. I don't know if this would have happened with a single layer. I don't have any other more textured spots on my face. Actually, no. I don't know if this would happen if I just had a single layer of foundation, but I needed the 2 layers to have the right amount of coverage for that area, but then when I used that 2 layers in combination with the texture of those areas with the skin raised, it just ended up looking really cakey. So I find stuff like that just brings more emphasis onto the pimples than if I had just done nothing at all. So that's really frustrating, but everything other than that and like the orangey-ish bronzer, which isn't usually orange, seems to be going well. So I will now go throughout my day, probably a lot of studying for those finals, and I will check back in with you at the end and give you my final thoughts. So it is now the end of the day, and I have been wearing this look for a solid 8.5, 9 hours, so definitely been put to the test. And I would say I am a little bit shiny on my forehead and maybe like a little bit on the apples of my cheeks, a touch on my chin, but really nothing major. And considering I did not powder, I am like super duper impressed. And honestly, I didn't notice like a little bit of shine coming through until maybe like 6 hours in. So I think had I powdered, I don't really think I would have had any issue. So it's called Pro-Matte. Like, you better believe it. It is definitely a matte foundation. This is the best foundation I've ever had to combat my oils. So I am super excited about that. And I would say like the makeup really did stay on all day. The coverage is still there. It didn't wear away. It is very long lasting. So, I mean, it claims to wear up to 24 hours. I did not test that. I'm only like 9 hours in. I'm not going to wear this for a full 24 hours, and I kind of don't believe it would last 24 hours, but I would definitely say it is a very long wearing, and I am excited that at the end of the day, this is how my makeup looks. So if you have a long day ahead of you and you want your look to last throughout the day, it looks like this foundation can really do it. The other claims of this is they actually claim that it's a demi-matte and not a matte finish. So in terms of that, I'm actually kind of surprised because I would consider this more of a matte. When I think demi-matte, I think like a satin finish or natural finish. It's not too glowy, but it looks like skin. Not that saying this didn't look like skin, but I would kind of qualify this almost more as a matte. And I would say how it looks right now with like this little bit of shine on my cheeks is more how demi-mattes tend to look on me. And then texture being air light. I would say that's true. I would say maybe around hour 7, it did kind of start to feel a little heavy in like the lower half of my face, like around my mouth, just like, I don't know, started to feel heavy. Maybe it's just because it's the end of the day, but overall I would say I really like how this wore. The one thing is, if you take off the top, like the foundation is just kind of getting everywhere. It's all in the lid, so I'm really worried about this being a very messy foundation. It already has foundation all over the bottle, but that is probably my biggest concern. And considering my biggest concern with this foundation is its messiness, I would say that's pretty good. The one thing I would say is, earlier I said, oh, I hadn't noticed any oxidization, and at that point I had looked under these lights in my bathroom, which I find tends to be a different light, and I hadn't looked in natural light. And when I was in my car later, I did look, and my face looked so pink in my car mirror. But that being said, I feel like my makeup always looks bad in my car mirror. Like, if this happens to you, can you please comment down below so I know I'm not alone? But looking in a mirror now, like I was in Urban Decay earlier today, and no one was like, your face looks so pink. I had to go return something. I was studying, don't worry. So yeah, I would say, like, again, there was that little bit of cakiness where I had texture on my skin and a little bit of my oil seeping through, but all in all, I really like this. I would only say if you are as fair as I am and more warm toned, you would probably have an issue, because I feel like the first few light shades are very cool or neutral, not quite warm. So if you're fair and warm, I feel like you would have an issue finding color match, and that this would definitely look way too pink on you because I'm cool tone and I was worried about it looking pink on me. But all in all, I really like this. I'm excited to see how it wears when I use a powder with it, but I feel good about this one. I would say so far of the foundations I've tested, I kind of feel like the strongest about this one. Like I see good things happening for us. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. Bye.